Major Music.
Yo, what's up? Coming at y'all with another video. It's your boy D Dot. If this is your first time on this channel, I like to talk all things music production. With that being said, things like the Major Music Lounge podcast, which is a podcast for music producers, sound designers, content creators, and also artists are welcome, where I talk to all the above about whatever it is that they do inside of the music space. And maybe they might have a project or something of that effect coming out. Maybe they might have a placement with a major artist or in film and television. Maybe they create content here on YouTube. As far as music production, I like to talk about topics as we're going to talk about today, like Beatmaker 3 or other apps, as well as even like sound packs, VSTs, plugins, things along those lines. Not only for iPad, but also Mac. I even use hardware like MPC and some other synthesizers that I own. You can follow me on Instagram at d._majormusic, as well as on Twitter at d.mme. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button if you're into music production topics, as I was speaking about. As I said, I want to talk a little bit about Beatmaker 3 because I get some questions from some of the beat making videos that I do, whether it's here on YouTube or whether it's on Instagram, about what is a good first app to start off making beats with on the iPad. There's quite a few apps on iPad to choose from when you're talking about music production. Anything from like Beatmaker, Koala Sampler, Cubase's, GarageBand, FL Studio Mobile. There are several apps at some point I hope to cover here on this channel, so stay tuned for that. But what I wanted to talk about is Beatmaker 3 for any music creators that are interested in getting to like music production on the iPad. Without much further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So before I get into the actual app of Beatmaker itself, I did want to talk about a couple of things. So if you're going to be making beats on the iPad, you probably want to get yourself a Thunderbolt 3 or USB-C adapter of some sort that will work with your iPad. I personally use iPad Pro. Now this adapter right here I actually purchased on Amazon. Wow, probably because this is the third iPad Pro I've owned. So I purchased it when I purchased my first one. And it's from a company called Hitachi. This one is no longer being sold on Amazon. However, there are several similar to this on Amazon. Now, there's a lot of other places you can get these. Now, one of the reasons that I personally got this one, and this is just for me, is I was also looking for the SD card slot in addition to now you have a audio output. So sometimes which kind of leads me to my next point, I may sometimes connect directly from my audio interface because my audio interface is Thunderbolt out, which I happen to use the Persona Studio 26C, which is going to have that USB in, so I could just plug directly into the iPad Pro. If you ever wanted to use a MIDI keyboard inside of Beatmaker 3, then you want to purchase an adapter that has USB-C in that allows you to use a MIDI keyboard. And I actually did a video in 2020 or 2019. I'll leave the link in the description. But I spoke on some of the adapters and the MIDI keyboard, which I'm actually using the same Arturia Mini Lab that I talked about in that video as far as mobile music production and what I'm using. Now the Mini Lab from Arturia is going to be $99. It's very durable, still works, nothing broken on it. My only thing with it is, even though it's a 25 key, it is a bit bulky, so like maybe when I'm going to work or something of that nature, I don't like to take it with me because it would take up too much space and we got kind of limited space. So I pretty much, whenever I go to work, I take my iPad by itself as is and I just make beats on Beatmaker 3 that way. But I do plan on buying something like an MPD because I want to get some sort of MIDI controller that I can use on the go, or sometimes I may actually still use my Roly Seaboard Block or my Roly Lightpad M as a MIDI controller on the go. Those are compact enough for me to take and actually work really well considering it's Bluetooth where they don't have any latency. But I'll keep y'all posted on that. I'll actually make another video whenever I get the MPD, and we'll talk about it. As far as Beatmaker 3, it's gonna be this app right down here, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit this. This is actually my latest beatmaking video, which I uploaded earlier this week. Go ahead, save this real quick. Always save your work. So this is what I'm kind of basically doing right now is going to be a overview of Beatmaker 3, and I'll do a separate video on how to make a beat using Beatmaker 3. Before we get into the Beatmaker app itself, Beatmaker 3 of course is going to be available in the App Store, and it's going to run about $24.99. Sometimes you may find it for less. It depends really on whenever you find it. Sometimes you may find it for like half off, or I remember I even found it for like $9.99. It's going to be a little bit more than half off. Now, what I also say is Beatmaker 3 is my favorite app to make beats in on the iPad. I actually started off on Beatmaker 2 way back around 2015, and then I remember Beatmaker 3 came out in 2017, and it's kind of been the main app I've used for production ever since then. I may venture off into other apps from time to time, like Koala Sampler, which I'll make another video on, and then Cubase is also another good beat making program. I'll make a video on that as well. But it's gonna mainly be between those three apps. And talk about all the apps that I use to make beats on the iPad. You got Beatmaker 3, you got Chord Gadget, you got Cubase, and then you got Koala Sampler. Now all of those are going to be apps that you can actually make beats inside of. Then you got AUV3 plugins, which is Audio Unit version 3 plugins. Think of that kind of like a VST. That is going to be separate from an actual beat making application for iPad. Now, as we look here where it says these in-app purchases, you're going to see here like Neon Noir, what's this, Grinko and Acid Footsteps, MSX Sound, The Fly Life, Modulalism, Arpism, and there's a whole lot of different sound packs which are going to also be in-app purchases that you can get for Beatmaker 3. So you can kind of build your sound library accordingly. Now if all you do is just create beats, it's going to pretty much have everything in there for you to create beats. You have the ability to use AUV3 plugins. So if you're purchasing like other apps that are synthesizers that you can use in the Audio Unit version 3 format, you can actually use those inside of Beatmaker 3, as well as any of the other apps that you use that support Audio Unit version 3 plugins. Beatmaker 3 will also have its own sampler, so you can import all your samples from the Files app directly into Beatmaker 3. Now going back to Audio Unit version 3 plugins, there's also another audio unit that I sometimes like to chop samples in, and that one is called Segments. And then, now I spoke a little bit earlier also about the Koala app, which is a sampler, very similar to like a pocket operator, for example. A lot of other people also may compare it to the SP404 as a way to create. I haven't used the SP404. I do have a pocket operator, so I can kind of see the comparisons there. It says state-of-the-art sampling engine, live slice mode, real-time stretching, audio resampling and editing, full modulation system, layering, and plugins. Now, as it's saying right here, integrates your favorite synth and effect apps with full AUV3 and IAA. What IAA is going to be inter-app audio compatibility. I mean, a lot of people still use inter-app audio. Inter-app audio used to be the main format when Beatmaker 2 was around. It was a way that you recorded external apps into your sequencer in Beatmaker 2. A lot of developers are still creating apps in that format. A lot of people have switched over to the AUV3 format, which, think of it this way. AUV3 allows you to record into a MIDI track. IAA, which is Interact Audio, allows you to record into a audio track. And then as it says below, MIDI. Connect your MIDI controllers and audio interface for a perfect studio integration. I kind of spoke about that earlier. When you open up Beatmaker 3, it's going to open up like this, which asks you if you want to open up a new session, if you want to open a session. Let's say you were working with a previous session that you maybe want to get to mixing, or you want to arrange, or whatever it is you're doing with it. And then you actually have a quick start guide. This is going to be your first time, or maybe you're new to Beatmaker 3 and you want something that you can go ahead and reference. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the sound store. For all my people that may make music on Machine or any of the MPC models, the new MPC models, that is, that work with the MPC program, like on Mac, for example, just like all those other programs I was mentioning, you're going to have sound libraries that you can purchase inside of Beatmaker 3. I have quite a lot of them. They haven't actually released any new banks in quite some time. But if you're trying to get started with building your own sound library in Beatmaker 3, this is a great way to go. They're reasonably priced, anywhere from like 99 cents to maybe like 10 bucks. Sometimes you may actually find these on sale, just like I was mentioning. The Beatmaker 3 app itself, you may find it on sale sometimes. But, you know, they got some stuff by MSX Sound, which the constituents right here. I believe they have another one. Yeah, Fly Light, that's going to be by MSX Sound. So definitely check it out. This is a great way, again, to build your sound library. The other great way for you to build your sound library is going to be with other audio unit plugins or Interact audio plugins. Now, the way you're going to access all of your audio unit or Interact audio plugins is going to be this little squiggly line on the left side of the screen, and then on the right side of the screen you're going to tap here where you have this little icon, and then on this page you can actually see audio unit version 3. You're going to see Interact Audio 2nd, and then you're going to see Audio Bus. Now, Audio Bus is going to be a separate app that actually helps you route MIDI and audio signals into Beatmaker or Cubase or GarageBand or any beat making or music production app that supports Audio Bus. I already spoke on Interact Audio as well. Now let's go ahead and look at Audio Unit version 3. You're going to see all the different Audio Unit plugins actually by developers. So like Arturia, I got the iSim, Audio Damage, Audio Kit. I have a lot of those apps as well, and so on and so forth. I spoke on Koala Sampler. I spoke on Elliott Garage Segments. See Korg, I love their plugins. Moog, Rolly, Numerical, UVI, BeatHawk, Yannick, Ice Gear. And then if I go back in here, I got Interact Audio, and you have a ton of Interact Audio apps as well. So I can use these inside of Beatmaker to record audio, or if I want to record MIDI, I can use the audio unit to record MIDI. Now, right here is actually going to be how you can load a bank in the top left corner. So if I go here and I hit load bank, this will take me to all my Beatmaker formatted sounds. Then you can actually see at the top where it says banks. And then if I go to sessions, this will actually show me all the sessions that I have inside of Beatmaker 3. And if you actually have a session, this is something you also got to do, just a pro tip. The only thing that I would think can use some improvement inside of Beatmaker 3 is if they can have some kind of way that you can actually have your projects arranged by date. That way you can see maybe what you're working on recently, because it does show up at the beginning once you first open up Beatmaker 3. But then after that, unless I hit this favorites star, then I can forget what I was working on maybe a week or two ago, because sometimes I want to go back and arrange beats that I worked on, but I can't remember the name, so I got to spend time searching in this menu for it again. Outside of that, it's pretty straightforward. I can't say anything else bad about it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, as far as loading a bank, if I want to load this bank, this 1984 kit in Beatmaker, I just tap that, and then you'll see this load bank highlight, and then I can go ahead and hit this, and it's actually gonna be by MSX Sound. Shout out to MSX Sound. Definitely check out this sound pack if you get Beatmaker 3. Now, if we see here, we have this kit right here already loaded, this 1984 kit. But then, let's say I want to add another track to what we have right here. So I can hit this plus button right here, and this will allow me to create another track. But in this case, we're not going to necessarily create another track to layer, because we're just kind of doing an overview of this. But I'm going to click on it. I'm going to tap here on this folder up top, and this is going to take me to my document section. So in here, I'm going to have some of the sample packs that I own personally that I imported into Beatmaker 3. So let's find something we can demo real quick. If I go to this BBL folder, and once you tap on that folder, now it's really going to appear however you have it arranged. So in this instance, BBL was the main folder. I purchased the sample pack, and then in here they already had subfolders, which it had your hi-hats, kicks, percussion, snares, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead in here and tap on kicks. And then if I just want to go through and preview, and it'll allow you to autoplay. Now every time I tap on a new sound, it's going to autoplay. And you can see that autoplay lit up at the bottom of the screen. So if I go ahead and tap this, now when I do it, you don't hear anything. So I'm going to go ahead and tap auto. Now, if I want to go ahead and load that sound, I'm going to just hit load sample, and it places it right here. So then if I want to load another sample, let's select that kick. I can go in here. If I want to load up samples, all 16 pads, I can go ahead and load up samples in all 16 pads, and so on and so forth. Now let's start another track. The reason I started another track, because I'm going to go back out here. Let's go into Lost Tapes, Gold Samples, Volume 3. And let's say if I had Summertime, and let's go through. So I'm going to hit Load Sample. Kind of midway on the page, I'm going to go here to Sampler. And here is where you can see the sampler. So you're going to see kind of a representation of the 16 pads here. And if I go ahead and tap the pad, you can see the playhead start to go across. Now, just real quick, you can actually go, I'm not going to go in depth with the sampler, but just to really talk about just some of the basics. If I go in here to slice mode, tap that, it's going to highlight the entire sampler. But if I go here to auto slice and then split, you can see it auto splits it. And then you can basically tap one of these arrows in order to reduce or increase how many slices that you have inside of your sample. And then once you do that, you can go here to hit save, slice to pads, and then of course you want to start on whatever pad, and then you want to have your choke group. If you want to set up choke groups to cut off samples whenever you tap individual pads, then that would be how you do so. Then you hit apply. And then one other thing I'll talk about is you got the tune here. So if I go in here, and it'll allow you to save it in that tuned format, or you can go back and do it after you slice the sample, but that'll basically be how you chop the samples. Actually, I'll go ahead and do it real quick just to show you guys. So go here to slice pads, and then I'm gonna do this choke group 1, and then hit apply, and then mean, that's pretty much the basics of how you chop up here in Beatmaker 3. Now, one of the things I like about Beatmaker 3, it has a traditional mixer that looks a lot like all the other music production programs or apps that I've used since I've been creating beats. If we're looking here on the mixer and I want to add some audio unit plugins, now you're actually going to do that a little bit differently for your mixer. Now, just like synthesizers come in audio unit version 3 plugins, your actual mixing plugins will come in that format as well. And in order to find it here in Beatmaker 3, you're going to tap on audio effects on the bottom left corner, and then you're going to go at the top left corner of the Beatmaker 3 screen where it says add audio effect, and then you'll see right here. Now, these are actually going to not only show you at the top audio unit and inter-app audio effects, but it actually has all the internal Beatmaker 3 plugins as well. So if I want to go here, now I will say this before I get into the audio unit and inter-app audio plugins. Beatmaker 3 has a pretty good selection of plugins to get you started as well. But, you know, if you do want to get your own plugins outside of Beatmaker 3, you can do those just the same inside of the App Store. So if I go here to audio unit and inter-app audio effect, it has those separated just like it did on the synthesizer side. And if you go down, you can see all the plugins that I've been collecting for quite some time. I like a lot of the Fat Filter plugins, and then the IK Multimedia Mixbox. I actually did a separate video on the Mixbox, and then you got your plugins again by MSX Sound, Moog. A lot of dope developers. And then let's look at inter-app audio real quick as well. Audio Kit, Audio Damage. And then, you know, if I want to add, for example, if I want to add the Mixbox, hit that, and it shows the Mixbox here. And, you know, that's a whole nother tutorial we can get into there. Just aside from that, if we're looking here at the top, in the center of the screen, you're going to have your tempo button, so we could hit here the tempo, and works pretty much the same as all the other menus. You can tap your tempo kind of like you can on an MPCR machine, changing the signature, global swing, swing ratio, and swing sync. Right next to it, as you can see it highlighted or not highlighted, is going to be your metronome. So if I turn that on, now you don't hear it. Now you hear it. All right. And then to the right of that, you're going to have your quantization section for recording. Then you're going to have, to the right of that, your automation section to enable automation. You got your stop, play, record, forward, back, and loop button. So if you tap your loop button, like so. And then your undo, and then your save button to save your project. All right, so that's pretty much it. Beatmaker 3, $24.99 in the App Store. So next time I'll actually take you through a beat making walkthrough on Beatmaker 3, go more in depth on that. I just wanted to really make something that was just a simple overview of Beatmaker 3. I'm going to make different videos on different music production applications for a lot of people that's just getting into music production. That way you can kind of choose for yourself as far as the way you want to go. Personally, Beatmaker 3 is going to be my own personal favorite app to make beats on the iPad. And I think, you know, the learning curve is something that you want to get into. It's just $24.99 as I was saying earlier, so it's not a large investment, but that's also the big benefit of making beats on iPad. A lot of the programs and the applications won't cost you as much as it does on their desktop or laptop counterparts. So you can actually use Beatmaker 3 if you have a M1 Mac. Now, I personally haven't used Beatmaker 3 on the Mac, but I can tell you it is available again if you have a M1 MacBook Pro. So check it out if you're looking to make beats. If you found this video interesting, go ahead, hit the like button. Follow me on Instagram at d._majormusic. subscribe to Major Music TV, and go ahead also check out the Major Music Lounge podcast, which I upload new episodes every Friday here on this YouTube channel. If you hung around this far, I truly appreciate it. It's your boy D. Dot, and I'm out.